everybody. Welcome in. Hope you are having a great Thursday. It's the 12th already of January. Hope you're doing great out there. Welcome in. This is the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Michigan football and basketball. The Wolverines are in action tonight in Iowa City, taking on the Hawkeyes. We'll get to that. Welcome in wherever you're watching, listening back to the podcast, all that available for you. We're a part of rivals.com, and it's always great to see the people in here live. You want to talk, raise your hand. We'll put your audio up on Spaces. You leave some feedback. We put it up on the screen. That's how we do things here. Today, you might want to know what we're talking about. You got a lot of good guesses. You'll probably be right about all of them. Michigan football and basketball. That's what we're talking about. You have a coach's final ballot that was put online, and there were a lot of interesting things in how the coaches voted and who they voted for. We'll go through some of that. I put some emojis next to some of the coaches who I thought were made some wild selections. That'll be fun. That's coming up straight ahead, probably around 10 minutes from right now. Also, we've got Michigan, as mentioned, basketball taking on Iowa. We'll take a close look at this game right here. Michigan in need of some wins. They could definitely take a dub in Iowa. That would be nice. We'll look at all of the Ken Palms, how the Hawkeyes look, how they've been playing, how the Wolverines have been playing, all of that. Michigan Hoops tonight, 7:01 on ESPN2. That's when that game is going to tip off. Expected to. We're going to start with a little Michigan football and the ongoing drama of the contract situation with Jim Harbaugh, the ongoing saga of Jim Harbaugh, whether he's going to the NFL, and how he's negotiating his contract, what's going on with that whole deal, and how this is affecting recruiting. And last year, when Harbaugh went out with the Vikings and then came back to Michigan, and the Wolverines weren't just rolling in, the five-star recruits. There were a lot of people that were like, that just killed momentum, what Harbaugh did. That killed it. And I didn't know if that was true or not. I think what, killed Michigan last year was Michigan, not doing like most of the other teams in the top 25 are doing, saying, hey, come on in. We've got your name, image, and likeness here for you, and we'll give you a little sweetener even before you start. Michigan decided to not do that. In fact, Harbaugh led the charge in the summer when he said Michigan is not going to be transactional. It's about transformative. And all those, the five stars were like, the hell with this. We'll take our money now. And I think that hurt him. However, what's going on now, you come back and here you are in the same position this year, but you say that it is hurting Michigan right now, and I think you can make the case. And I don't know for sure. Each player is going to be in position, and then even if a player would say that it hurt Michigan, because the players can actually come out and say, it's like there's only a couple of things they can't do with getting, being able to take the money up front. One of them is saying, "Hey, I'm taking the money up front." Nobody's asking them, or if they do ask them, they're just saying, "No, I committed, to USC because I like the weather, or I like, you don't have to say anything. I wanted to go to USC. That's all you have to say. The only thing you can't say is that, no, they promised me $250,000 before I came here. It's the only thing you don't have to say. You could be a wide receiver even before you go into the portal, and you could tell people around you like, oh yeah, USC's giving me $1 million. And everybody's like, man, this wide receiver is going to USC. They're like, he's not even in the portal yet. Then he goes to the portal, and then he goes to USC. And guess what happened? Nothing. So it's a very easy system. But Michigan and Jim Harbaugh has told everybody that that's not the way Michigan's playing it. So I don't know. We're here again today talking about this, but I'll just make a couple points on the contract situation with Harbaugh. Jaydn Davis, he's a five-star quarterback out of Providence Day in Charlotte, North Carolina. Michigan wants him. I think he wants to go to Michigan. I think he would like to, see what the situation, like, when people say it's not all about the money, like Harbaugh is saying that, you always hear it is about the money. And when recruits are like, recruits especially quarterbacks. There's, nothing against everybody else, but quarterbacks, they're kind of smart, or they at least learn, the game and how to talk. Jaydn Davis, when asked about, hey, what about name, image, and likeness and everything else, he's like, it's not that big of a deal. Well, you would be not doing your job as a parent or a coach or somebody that was close to Jaydn Davis. And hey, Jaydn, let's look at and see what the name, image, and likeness packages that are being presented. Let's hear their pitch, and maybe his pitch isn't about getting the the cash up front because he feels like he's going to get it when he comes in. And after that, he looks at somebody like J.J. McCarthy, who might be, in the seven figures right now, and said, hey, you know what? It'll be there. It'll be there. It might not be up front, but he was quoted talking about Jaydn Davis. They had an all-star game over the weekend, and Rivals microphones were there. And he said that, quote, I wouldn't want to commit somewhere, and then the coach is gone the next day. Well, it sounds like he's talking exactly about Michigan, that's what it sounds like. He doesn't want to commit to Michigan, and then Jim Harbaugh accepts the job with the Broncos of all places. But that's where we're sitting right now when it comes down to that. There are a lot of people. I noticed in the last 24 or 48 hours, it is the drama, and then you have people look, like the Maize and Blue Review. We're a subscription site, and I tell you every day that you should sign up. I'm going to tell you again today. You want to know what's going on, and without clickbait, Josh Henschke's out there working hard with his sources to to bring you the latest and correct information without all the drama-filled and ego, I will say, of some of the other sites. Look at me. He does a wonderful job. What was my point about that? Oh, well, you're going to have to put out, you got a lot of people and a lot of mouths to feed. Everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? Well, there has been some, I would say, backlash or some blame directed at Michigan's athletic director, Ward Manuel. People like, thinking Ward, the blame game on Ward, if that's what we're playing. And that's what we're playing over the last couple of days. When I say we, people that are just, interested in Michigan, the blame game is not on Harbaugh, who went out and interviewed when he said he wasn't. Michigan fans are like, oh, no, that's just a negotiation tactic. It's amazing how Michigan fans are like, oh, it's okay. He's just doing what he has to do because Ward won't give him what he wants. But and so the blame game is being put at the athletic director's door. And people, you have to have somebody to blame. You can't just sit back and say, you don't want to say this. Boy, Michigan, it's all everybody's fault. These guys that can't get out of their own way. It's like a marriage, or what is it? We've used the marriage. It's like a family, fighting over an estate. When there's the will, and they could just split it up 50-50, but they can't do it. They got to take it to court. They got to fight tooth and nail. And even though they know, or people will tell them, in the long run, you guys, you could just figure this out. And, maybe it's like this in divorce court too. If you guys could just split this up, you wouldn't have to pay all these lawyers. And this is what it feels like to me. Michigan, if they could just come to the contract, they could avoid all of this other stuff. But now you get the egos and you get them fighting, and Michigan's losing. That's who's losing in this. Everybody outside of Michigan is like, nah, look at you guys. In Michigan, meanwhile, inside, everybody's infighting. You got people pointing their fingers at the athletic director and pointing them at the coach. You're saying things that you don't want to say. It's a mess. Can we all agree on that, where we're sitting? But I'm going to play the blame game today. I'll play it. I see a lot of other people out there, blaming the athletic director. Let me play the blame game. The drama is hurting everyone at Michigan. Michigan last year had a lot of momentum going into the offseason after getting into the college football playoff, and then they had to deal with Harbaugh. And at the very least, it hurt momentum with, instead of everybody looking back and talking about winning the Big Ten and beating Ohio State and getting to the college football playoff, it was like, oh, man, look at what Harbaugh did. Now people were able to patch it up saying, hey, well, Jim told everybody this is what he was going to do and everything else. But now we're right back at it again. All the same things. You know what? The game against TCU is going to live forever in Michigan fans' minds. They're going to hate it, and they're never going to be able to get over it. But you can, even if you can't get over the game and the Philly not so special and the fumbling on the one, all the different things that we've been over already now a million times. At some point, you'll be able to look back and say, man, Michigan beat Ohio State again. Beat them again. Beat them in Columbus. Beat them like a drum in Columbus. Blew them out in Columbus. The Buckeyes only scored 3 freaking points in the second half down in Columbus. Michigan rang up 45 points on Ohio State this year, beating them 2 times in a row. Got to hand it to them. Michigan won and went to Indianapolis, where people would make jokes about, hey, Matt, or whatever. Find your way to Indianapolis. Michigan knows the way. Michigan doesn't even have to, put it into their phone. They just know how to, right now, next year, they could just take off right now. They could drive blindfolded to Indianapolis. Those are all great things for the Wolverines. But instead of talking about all that, we're talking about all this. And you want to know? You want to know the blame game? You don't know who to blame? Here's who I blame. I blame Jim Harbaugh for almost all of it, 80% of it. I don't want to do that. Is that something I want to do? I'm working for the Maize and freaking Blue Review. You think I want to sit here and talk about Jim Harbaugh going against his word, lying to everybody about interviewing? You think when, I hear everybody is saying, well, this is not about the money. This is what it looks like. It looks like it's about the money. And it looks like he wants to go to the NFL. Now, that's the way it looks. There's a lot of people that are talking with a lot of people that are in position, they're getting all their different, information and everything. And we're no different than that. Josh Henschke's doing a great job out there working the sources and talking with people that are telling him things. But I'm telling you how this looks. This looks like Jim Harbaugh wants to go to the NFL. He wanted to go to the NFL last year, and it fell apart because of his in-person interview. And then he said he was never going to do it again. We should have had him put his hand on the Bible and raise his hand. Because now here he is, he's doing it again. Now people are like, no, he just, was talking to the guy in Carolina, the owner. Oh, what were they talking about? Hey, you like the color blue? You like our shade of blue? Or no, you know what he was talking about? You want to come to the Panthers? That's what he was talking about. Oh, it was just a Zoom. That didn't mean, what do you think they were talking about for 2 hours? How's that thin air out there? Real nice on your lawn. Makes you feel good. They were talking about him being the coach of the Broncos. What's that have to do with Ward Manuel? Oh, well, Ward, his negotiation tactics. He put a weak contract in front of him. I don't know. I've never been in a negotiations game, but I could see, walking over there and saying, hey, let's give it a shot. Hey, Jim, what do you people are saying it's never about the money. Hey, here you go, Jim. What about that contract? He looked at it and was like, no. Well, let's get another one. So they drew up another one. And they gave him another one. He looked at it like, I'm going to have to get I'm going to have to not only get a lawyer, I'm going to get me an agent. And the agent is like, we need a lot more than what you're doing. And so now they're negotiating. At no point, if I was Jim Harbaugh's agent, would I recommend say, hey, Jim, you just said last year, like you're man of your word, and all that and everything. Let's break your word and go out and interview. That'll really show Michigan. That'll really show them. And the Michigan fans are like, oh, it's just a tactic. Just a tactic. Okay, so that's where we're at. That's my blame game. And I'm going to have to admit this, that I noticed that most Michigan people, they would put the blame game exactly opposite of that. And I don't even think they would put 20% on Harbaugh. almost everybody I've seen the last 24 or 48 hours, especially people that, the Harbaugh's lawyer. I mean, he was putting out a Google Doc, and all this about, just, and I see people name Colin Ward. I mean, they just blast him, fire him, hope he takes the Big Ten commissioner's job. I mean, all of those things. Nobody's saying anything about it. So everybody is a disagreement with me. You have to say that. So if you're like looking at this, say, this is crazy. This is not what everybody else is. No, that's not what everybody else is saying. That's true. Everybody else thinks that Ward Manuel is undercutting Harbaugh, is doing things behind the scenes, is cheap, doesn't care about name, image, and likeness. I mean, all these things are being said about Ward Manuel. I'm not, like people say, what are you, Ward's boy or something? No. I'm not Ward Manuel. I'm not Jim Harbaugh's boy. I'm just telling you how it looks to me. And then when I see everybody out there, they all kind of jump on the same thing, like, oh, yeah, Ward. Well, this guy's saying it's Ward's fault. And then they all just get in there and start getting nasty with him. I'm telling you that it's 80% on Harbaugh and it's 20% on Manuel. But I will tell you that however you cut it up, it's 100% hurting Michigan. And that's no fun. Hurting Michigan. You're a Michigan fan. And you are a Michigan fan, and you want to know the latest and the best information out there. And I can tell you just from what I've seen, I don't really, follow the other sites too much and everything else. I know those guys, but there's a lot of drama-filled, a lot of National Enquirer type stuff going on out there. Maybe you like that. Maybe you really like that TMZ stuff. But you want to know some fact-based reporting. You want to get in with Josh Henschke and Trevor McHugh and all of us here at the Maize and Blue Review. You can be in tune with Michigan this year, know what's going on with this contract, know what's going on with Jaydn Davis and recruiting and everything else. Go to michigan.rivals.com. It's the Maize and Blue Review, and you can get in front of everybody on that. Okay, let's get some feedback in here and see what people are thinking about when it comes to Michigan. And you want to talk about the basketball team? I'll be getting to that coming up momentarily. Also, those coaches, how they voted in the top 25. I started out with a little Jim Harbaugh today and playing the blame game. Not a fun game to play. It's a maize on blue crime type game, and that's not a good game. You want to be maize and blue against green and white. You want to be against scarlet and gray. You don't want to be maize versus blue, but that's what this game is. Harbaugh versus Manuel. These guys were brothers. These guys are both Michigan alums that play football. Both played for Bo. And you got people casting aspersions left and right now at both of them. GFF says, based upon the product that's been placed on the field the last 2 seasons, we're good. Yeah, nobody is going to argue with that. Richard, the people's narrative is always pie in the sky and the best possible perspective. That's true, Richard. And to defend the people, it's like, look, you spend your lives, you're working your tail off, you're doing all these things, and your football team, it's just for fun. You just love the game, and you just love the camaraderie, and getting with people like you, and so you can yell at the opposing fans, and you can get the conspiracy theories with the refs and all that. Andre says, Santa, hey Santa, fire Harbaugh, fire Ward, thanks Santa. Ooh, Andres, a tough one. This is 80% hurtful. Rico says Jim signed a 5-year extension last night. Yeah, well, I maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Travis, I've had enough. Harbaugh needs to sign this weekend or leave. Also, a $5-10 million buyout would be insane. That's not a long-term contract at all. Pennies to the NFL team. Yeah, I was talking to a former Michigan player last night, and he wasn't all worked up about it. He was looking at the calendar. He's saying, hey, it was the first, and then you got the how it was going along, and here we are. But he was saying like you. He said, this gets just get it wrapped up by the weekend. Get it wrapped up by the weekend. Everything's okay. This was just a lot of drama. This is just you and a lot of other people. It wasn't pointing the finger at me and saying that I was acting hysterical every day. They said, yeah, I mean, like it'll be water under the bridge pretty quick. They get it signed. Very even keel approach, kind of like Travis is taking there. Travis does not blame Ward. He's looking out for Michigan long term. Harbaugh lied straight to his face last year when he said his flirtation with the NFL was over. Yeah, but what about a lot of Harbaugh defenders saying it's just a leverage. It's just to speed things up. Harbaugh's got he's just all Michigan through and through. Everything is just for his love of Michigan. It's not about money. It's about getting his assistants more money. It's just about getting a name, image, and likeness behind the scenes. It's about getting transactional behind the scenes and getting transformational in front of everybody else. I'm spitting a lot of the narratives out there, and sometimes as they come out, I'm like, wow, that's the narrative. That's the one everybody's rolling with. Dune E. Dunn hates what's going on. Michigan has finally made some strides in recent seasons, and they're choosing the path of most resistance right now. Why make this more difficult? I don't know. I don't know how they're making it so difficult because it doesn't. I don't think it's. I don't think it's what people think it is. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it one more time. I don't think that Jim Harbaugh's number one priority is Michigan. I know that he said those who stay will be champions and wrote his name underneath that last week. I know he just did that last week, but then he interviewed with the Broncos. I'm not buying myself the leverage angle. And I don't think his agent that he just hired, I don't think he's doing a very good job. If that agent would have called me and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get Ward off of his ass and we're going to go interview with the Broncos. Their interim head coach worked with his brother John for 12 years as the special teams coach in Baltimore. We're good friends. We'll put one over on Michigan. We'll get this leverage going. We'll heat up that seat real quick. If I was his agent, I said, you know what? Let's try a couple other things first. How about you go on with Rich Eisen and say, hey, we're trying to get some things done behind the scenes with name, image, and likeness. I want money for my assistants. And, if he doesn't want to go on, how about he just send something out there to Mitch Albom, his boy from last year, saying that same kind of thing? Because I would have told his agent, that's not a good idea. You will come off as a money-grubbing, just like any other coach if you pull that move. And Michigan fans have enjoyed. There's a lot of things they enjoy, but they have enjoyed having Jim Harbaugh and saying, look, Jim Harbaugh is a man of his word. He's quirky and things, sure, but, he's a man. He's a Michigan man. And his word is what we're going with right now. His agent, what do you think his agent would have said to that? I don't know. People don't have that really good answer for me. The only thing they say is, no, this was a negotiation tactic. It was a bad negotiation tactic. It hasn't worked, and it's made the coach look really bad. So his agent is not a very good one. Jim Harbaugh, whoever he picked, I don't know how he went out and picked out his agent. Hopefully his lawyer is not the one that turned him on to him, because he's not doing a very good job either out there on social media from what I have seen. But again, I don't like this because I like Michigan people. When I meet somebody, I give everybody a fair shake. I'm about good people. Embrace diversity, all these things. But you know what? When I hear somebody say, I'm a Michigan fan, I'm automatically like, oh, really? Nice to meet you. And I think, even though I try to, I'm not having any biases or everything else, I'm thinking in my mind, I like this person. This is a good person. I don't. It doesn't run through my mind when somebody says that they're a Michigan State fan or something. Because I got plenty of friends. I don't put in my head like, oh, this is a little sneaky sucker, or I don't think things like that. I mostly just emphasize the positive when I meet somebody and they say they're a Michigan fan. I'm thinking, you know what, me and this person have a lot in common. So to sit here and have to look at all these Michigan people and look at them and acting like they have been acting, and some of my fellow reporters and people in the media, and some of the garbage that they're putting out there. But look, they're getting people to come on in and view their sites or listen to their radio shows, and then people that are eating it up. Oh, they're they're eating their own. It's what's happening here. What's the animals? I mean, what is this? Is it like alligators? They eat their own. I don't know who eats their own. Tigers? No. Snakes? This is not good for the maize and blue. Is what's going on here. Richard wants to talk about speculation. He honestly doesn't know, and it's all speculation without statements from the horse's mouth. Here's Steven. It says Harbaugh definitely deserves an updated contract, but Harbaugh is definitely in the wrong here. Well, Jaydn Davis update from Michael, who says Jaydn Davis was talking with Corey Dennis yesterday, so hopefully we don't lose out. Jaydn Davis was talking with Corey. Who's Corey? Talking with Corey. Is there somebody named Corey Dennis? He was talking with somebody named Corey Dennis? I don't know. I'm sorry, my God. Sometimes I need the help with the recruiting. I like to know all about recruiting and all the little nooks and crannies and all the different levels of things that are going on. And with Jaydn Davis, I thought I was following all of it really close and everything else. But that one just wasn't making sense to me. So I don't know. Maybe just give me a little bit of an update. Rico continues to say that this thing is done, everything's fine. Hey, everything's fine, according to Rico. We're all set. Tony Dunn says he heard that Kirby Smart might be interviewing for the Arizona Cardinals job. I did see that. That's a good one. That was one that makes you feel like, hey, Kirby Smart, two-time champ. Is Kirby Smart doing it for leverage? He's doing it because, the iron is hot, and he's thinking, hey, what will the Arizona Cardinals offer me? I just, passed up Nick Saban and everybody else. I'm sitting at the very top of the mountain. I'm getting $12 million from the Dogs. This thing's going perfectly. What will the Cardinals? We're going to have to offer him $15 million a year for 10 years? And complete control? Is that what Kirby Smart? Maybe he figures. Yeah, I saw that. Why is Harbaugh sending torpedoes to sink our recruiting classes? Well, he's telling all the recruits, according to him. I'm sorry, according to the recruits and others, that he's telling everybody that everything's good, but. At this point, that's the hard part. This is honestly, it's the hard part. To me, it's the hardest part. Because last year, Harbaugh, was keeping everybody this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm doing it. He's saying one thing, and yet it looks like he's doing another. And so I don't like that part. What's he going to tell a recruit? Yeah, I'm looking to the NFL again. Yeah, but you just said you weren't. Oh, but is he telling them, I'm just doing it for leverage? I mean, I don't know what he's telling them. What is he telling them? How does that work? I don't know how it works. It's just one of these things. I hear people. It's a good thing. Let's just blame Ward. It's not a bad. Maybe it's a pretty good angle. Like I don't know. It's just let's just blame Ward. That's a good way. We got to blame somebody. Let's blame me. Rico was saying he signed an extension last year. That's true. But he's looking for another one because of what happened this year, and I understand that. I get that part. But clearly, there's, while I haven't seen the contract and I've heard a lot of people saying, hey, here's what's in the contract, here's what the buyout is. Nah, he didn't like that contract, so then they worked another one up, and now they're, drawing up another contract, but Harbaugh wants a low buyout, Michigan wants a high buyout. That's a sticking point. I mean, these things are all being, talked about. And what is being talked about, Rico, is that, Jim was at such wit's end that his game plan with his new agent was, let's go against my word that I just said last year, and let's interview with the NFL, because really I don't want to go to the NFL, but I want to show Ward how serious I am with a contract leverage negotiation. As I say that, I don't believe it. I believe that Jim Harbaugh wants to go to the NFL. And I think Michigan is the fallback. So he's going to keep working his job. Hey, when he was with the San Francisco 49ers and people are already saying he's coming to Michigan, he's coming to Michigan. I think that until the 49ers were eliminated from the playoffs, if you go back and look, people were already putting him in Ann Arbor. Jim Harbaugh may not have ended up taking the job if somehow San Francisco was in a free fall and they lost the last couple of games, and we know the rest is history. But people jumped the gun on Jim Harbaugh. Certainly he was looking, he was doing kind of what he's doing right now. But he would have stayed with San Francisco. You telling me that if San Francisco made the playoffs and somehow they would have won some games and made the Super Bowl, he was going to jump? No. So, that's where we're at. Oh, Michael, I was hoping that this was not going to be the kind of this is not the kind of clarification that I wanted. I was hoping that Michael was like spelling things and capitalizing things the wrong way, and he was talking about me, Dennis, and somebody named Corey. But he is indicating that Corey Dennis is the Buckeyes quarterback coach. Yeah, well, things getting worse now, Michael. So not only with, Jaydn Davis, now he's out talking to somebody else. He's talking specifically with your number one rival. And they lost their dude. They lost Raiola, right? He decommitted and went elsewhere. So now they want Jaydn Davis. And what's Ohio State saying? Those guys up north are it's something like that. That's how it starts. I'll let you finish the rest. Those guys up north, that coach up north, that's how that's going right there. Okay. Let's Freaky Frank is lobbing jokes left and right. He's a real jokester. And so too are football coaches. Michigan, after losing to TCU and after TCU got demolished by Georgia, the AP and the coaches, they both vote in their top 25. And then you get a final 2022 college football poll from both the AP and the coaches. And the coaches' votes have been revealed. And now we want to look at those coaches' votes. And let's do that. This was pretty funny. So I've got it goes all the way up to like 20 on the screen. If you're just listening to this on the podcast, I've got all the coaches in the top 25 and how they voted. And if I would have voted in the Associated Press, I would have voted Georgia number one. They played TCU in the championship game, and even though they demolished them, I would have voted TCU number two. So then I had Ohio State and Michigan. And Ohio State and Michigan, Ohio State played Georgia a little bit closer to than Michigan played TCU. But the way Michigan went to Columbus and slapped Ohio State upside the head and did it on the road and then went and won the Big Ten, I would put Michigan in front of Ohio State. So that's how I would have voted it. Georgia, TCU, Michigan, Ohio State. Those would have been my final four. And most of the coaches in this poll agreed with me. That's how they voted it. That's how they voted it. Sorry. with the exception of a few, and let's note some of those exceptions right now. Here's Pat Narduzzi, the doozer at Pittsburgh. He voted Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Alabama 3, Tennessee 4. He dropped TCU to 5 and Michigan to 6. There's the doozer. Babers dropped Michigan to 4. So did Brent Pry, the head coach of Virginia Tech. Here's Georgia, TCU, Michigan, Ohio State. Big run, big run, big run. Same thing. Here goes. You go down. Okay, here's the Big Ten. Pat Fitzgerald voted Ohio State in front of Michigan. James Franklin didn't. Greg Schiano dropped TCU to 4 and voted Ohio State number 2 and Michigan 3. All right, we'll get to those guys in a little bit. Kyle Whittingham, nobody likes him around here. He doesn't like Michigan. He dropped him to 4. Look at Nick Saban. He's real something. All right. He voted himself number 2. Didn't make the playoffs, and voted Alabama. This guy's a narcissist. This guy's a nutbag. What a complete. I was going to call him something else. I would just call him cocky. But I was going to call him something else. Billy Napier, good luck. Jeff Monken voted Michigan 4. So you just go through all of these and you just look at some of them. Some of the wild ones. This guy from Middle Tennessee State, Stockstill, he voted Michigan 6th. I looked up at his bio to see if he had any connection with Narduzzi. I didn't necessarily see that. Look at this. Will Hall had Michigan 2. That's kind of wild, too. This guy, Sean Lewis from Kent State. I wonder what his axe to grind with the Wolverines. So most of them, Blake Anderson from Utah State voted Ohio State 2, TCU 3, Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan. Dropping Michigan to 5, you just got to be a jerk to do that. So it was it just shows you. I mean, these guys, they're biased, they're nuts, the things that they're doing, some of them, and you're going to get some of that. But let's look at. I made some notations, and I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I'll read them for you. The notations on this top 25. Narduzzi, who's pictured, I gave him in a clown box emoji for voting Michigan 6th. We all know what his deal with Michigan is. He went to Michigan State, or he coached at Michigan State with D'Antonio. Almost enough said there, but he's continued. Instead of being fair and balanced, he hates Michigan State, so he gets a little bozo emoji next to him. Pat Fitzgerald voted Ohio State in front of Michigan. Northwestern does not play Michigan next year. They don't play Ohio State either, but that is noted. In the future, if Michigan plays Pat Fitzgerald and whoever the coach is, and if it's Jim Harbaugh and he runs it up on Pat Fitzgerald, let's just remember the final coaches poll. Greg Schiano, he got some guts here because Schiano, obviously being in the Big Ten East the last time, he's got both Ohio State and Michigan next year. But Schiano voted Michigan behind Ohio State. And Michigan on September the 23rd host Rutgers next year. And if Jim Harbaugh is the head coach and he is throwing and he is running it up and people are like, wow, Jim Harbaugh's a real jerk, you'd say, just remember the vote last year. And Schiano, he's getting this because of how he voted. Saban earns a little emoji clown next to his. We've already been over that. So does Marcus Freeman. He voted Georgia, Ohio State, Bama, Michigan 4th, earning him a little bozo next to his name. Will Hall from Southern Miss. I don't know what he was thinking of, but he voted Georgia 1 and Michigan 2. Now, sure enough, TCU got embarrassed in the championship game, but I don't know. You got to play some mental gymnastics here. And are the gymnastics that Michigan was close to TCU, but they got hosed on some calls? I'm just trying. I'm not sad. This is what Michigan got hosed with some calls, and Michigan beat Ohio State, who was close to Georgia. So Michigan would have given Georgia a way better game against TCU, and thus we're going to vote him number 2. All right. I mean, what else? How else are you doing it? I'll give him a little the winking eye emoji with his tongue out. Like, hey, you got to be a little wild there. This guy, Blake Anderson, Utah State. I looked at his bio. It's mostly out on the West Coast, but he spent some time with that Middle Tennessee. And I noticed the Middle Tennessee coach had downgraded Michigan as well. So there might be something with Middle Tennessee, and Blake Anderson was there where he voted Michigan at number 6, but he earns himself a little bozo square. Blake Anderson, the head coach, out at Utah State. Let's get some feedback here before we get to basketball that's coming up. And the feedback we go to is the Michigan man, Jason, who says Michigan should be number 2. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look at you. You could be the coach at Southern Miss. You guys agree with each other. Michigan lost to TCU. Michigan man, what's your defense? His defense is 13-1 and a 6-point loss in the college football playoff. Who are you going to put ahead of him? I'm going to put Georgia and TCU. Michigan should be 3. There's no case for Michigan being number 2. I think the case for Ohio State is they played Georgia to the wire. Damn near got it to overtime, had that kick. And then TCU played Michigan and beat them by whatever it was, 6 points. Is that what it was? 51-45? That's 6 points. Beat them by 6 points and then got, the wiped out of the field. So thinking that Ohio State, I mean, you can kind of try to make that case, except that you say, look, they just played. Michigan went to Columbus. And if that game would have been close or something, maybe you could have said, but Michigan went on and then won the Big Ten championship. Ohio State, that's you're basing it on how they looked in the semifinal, even though they lost, and based it on how Michigan looked in the semifinal, and then how TCU looked against Georgia. I mean, I don't like it, but I get it. TCU getting smoked isn't a case. I don't think you get a case because you whittle it down. When you get to the final, like if everybody was playing all the way through, and this was, I would say, go ahead. Like it's a poll, like throughout the season. Yeah, you're saying, hey, this team looks good, and all that. Let's put them up here. I get that, but when it gets down to the end, and you have a playoff, there's 4 teams. Those were the 4 teams that were better than everyone else. Yeah, I'm going to, and then you have just 2. Those should be number 1 and number 2. How do they do it when you play in the Olympics, like Michigan man, like if you're playing for the gold medal? You get to the gold medal game, and if you lose the gold medal game, let's say, it's USA and Russia, and USA beats Russia 10-0. Russia isn't like, they lost by 10. Let's kick them out of the medal round. No, they're given the silver. And then they, true enough, they play a consolation game that would have been Michigan and Ohio State. They would play for the bronze, but they're going to play for third. But since you don't play for it, you have to look at the games and give it to them. That's how I would describe it. Now, if you wanted to, do it a different way, look, not all the coaches agree. It's not like we're all going to sit here and agree. Andre says the only honest guy I saw on there was James Franklin. Funny enough, he put his rival's own team in legitimate places. So did Mel Tucker. Believe me, we were all looking at what Coach Franklin and Coach Tucker did, and both of them voted how, were very reasonable in their approach and voted like most everyone else. They weren't all wild. Maybe we'll get into those Northwestern allegations. I saw them. I haven't looked as much into it, Andres, but I will. I haven't exactly looked at the what they were doing. Hazing, I think is what it is. So we'll see. Some more feedback here on this show. By the way, we're here every day at 1, talking about the latest in Michigan. Right now, we're talking about how those coaches voted, and we're talking about Harbaugh versus Ward Manuel and the contract negotiations and what's really behind it, what's really going on, what's being gained, nothing, what's being lost, a lot. So that's a recap on that. Cody on the feedback writes in, Michigan will never get the respect until the program stops the arrogance and learns how to win the big games. This whole we're better than you because we're Michigan needs to die. Well, maybe in some regards. I mean, like the arrogance, I think the part where you say Michigan learns how to win big games, they've won some big games. Ohio State was a big game, winning the Big Ten. That's a big game. I would change this to say Michigan will never get the national respect until they win it all. Or Michigan's not going to get the ultimate. That's what I would change your statement here, Cody, that said Michigan will not get the ultimate respect until they win it all. They would have got some more respect if they would have beat TCU. I would not feel the same about this college football season if Michigan beat TCU and lost to Georgia by 30, 20, certainly by 10. I wouldn't feel the same. You know, what are you going to do? Arrogance is a funny thing. Like, I didn't go to Michigan, but I went to high school in the state of Michigan. And when I was in high school, a couple of my friends, they went to Michigan. But you know what? Out of the whole school, I went to a really big school, Livonia Franklin, right? Or Livonia Franklin, big school. Only like 1 or 2 people went to Michigan because that's all they could get in. And so the 2 people that went in, they were like the smartest kids in the school. You know, I don't know. Maybe we had some people going to the Ivy League or something. But it's a really hard school to get into. So automatically, it's going to, you say some arrogance. It's, you're taking the very elite. So there's going to be some of that academic wise. And I think it spills over to everything else. So I don't know, like, I get that part, and Michigan, look at Nick Saban. He's pretty arrogant. You say Nick Saban needs to stop his arrogance of voting his own team. He didn't even make the Final Four, and he voted his team number 2. That's pretty arrogant. Pretty arrogant by Nick Saban. Michigan, at least Michigan Mans agrees with that. That is very arrogant. There's somebody using the bozo emoji, one of my favorites. If you don't have the college football participants in the top 4, you are a bozo or you're a clown. Bozo the clown. I agree with you, Andres. Jace wants to talk about Jaydn Davis. When's he going to commit? He may have already committed if Harbaugh wasn't doing what he's doing. I don't know. He's pushing it back, his commitment. And he said that he wanted to wait to see what was going on. He was asked if he's watching this situation, and he said most definitely. So I think he's waiting to see what Harbaugh does. Michigan man talking about what he's heard, name, image, and likeness. Sure. We're talking about little Ward. Here's more Jim. Jim holding the fan base, recruits, and players hostage. It's extreme, Chris. But it does feel like that. I think I know what I think I agree with you. It does feel like that. We're all hostages of Jim Harbaugh right now. All right, one more here. Jim is talking about opening up more because Michigan has been stingy. Yeah, you'd have to explain that one a little bit more. Stingy with what? I don't know. With their contracts, with their money. And if he's not the highest paid head coach, and that's what it's because the Mason Bloom review said there was a contract sitting there that he is the highest paid coach. So I'll go on that reporting. Josh Henschke. He also has said that the sticking point appears to be the buyout. And I'm more with Ward than I am with Jim on the buyout. Jim wants the highest salary and the lowest buyout. I'm saying, Jim, that's hurting Michigan. We need to negotiate that. You don't need to be going out. That's because this is what it looks like is you're going to get an NFL job as soon as you can. And yeah, Jim's like, they want a little buyout. So what? So he can go to the NFL. That's what it looks like. Come on. So that's it. Now tonight we have a basketball game. It's going to be played in Iowa City, and it's going to be Michigan against those Iowa Hawkeyes. It says they will tip it up at 7:01 on ESPN2. I looked on DraftKings today, and they have the line with the Hawkeyes favored by 6. Now, you remember the Pistons, they picked number 5, and the Kings were picking number 4, and they picked Keegan Murray. Or the Pistons picking 6th. I could be wrong about that. But Keegan Murray, a lot of people thought Keegan Murray was going to end up going to the Pistons. But the Kings drafted him with the 4th pick. He played at Iowa, him and his brother. And Keegan was outstanding. I mean, 6'8", dropping in from downtown. Awesome player. Chris is his twin, except he's left-handed. Well, he's playing like his brother right now. He's averaging over 20 points a game, close to 10 boards. And Chris Murray, I was just looking at the last couple of games. His last game, I think he had 17, but the time before that was against Indiana, who's a good team, and he dropped 30 on them. And the time before that was the Sunday before last. It was against Penn State. He poured in 32. So he's on a tear right now. And let's see what Michigan's able to do. And, they're beating Rutgers and Indiana. I mean, this is a tall task for the Wolverines tonight. See if they can get a win. You start looking at, you don't want to go too crazy about talking about bracketology or anything, but you can get a guide by looking at kenpom.com. And the Big Ten will get 7 or 8. It sounds like a lot, and especially when the Big Ten teams don't show up annually in the NCAA tournament, but they always get like 6, 7, 8 teams. So 7 or 8. Michigan right now with Ken Pom is 10th in the Big Ten. Iowa has a ranking of 39th. That would put them at 7th in the Big Ten. Michigan down there at 10th at 50. But it's pretty jumbled. Like, you win 2-3 games in a row, Michigan's at 50. They would bolt up, to, the 6th or 7th spot if they won 2-3 games in a row. And meanwhile, so it's not over. It's just, Michigan right now is on the outside looking in. We're going to start winning some ball games. And if they would have beat Michigan State, they didn't. This past weekend, that would have really shown something. I think if they win tonight, that would be a huge, huge statement. It would be a very nice win. You win on the road in the Big Ten, and it's not against, at this point, Nebraska or Minnesota. It's pretty good. Like, Nebraska's 92, and Minnesota's like one of the worst teams in all of college basketball. But you win anywhere besides Nebraska or Minnesota on the road in the Big Ten, and it's nice. Of course, you won at Michigan State, the rival, that would even be that much more. We know that didn't happen. So we'll see how what transpires tonight and how that is going on. MMJ, not liking where the Wolverines in basketball are right now. And I get that. They've got some work to do. Let's see how they do tonight. A reminder, what you're watching right now, I come on to Michigan, this with Amazing Blue Review, I come on and do a post-game live after the game, almost like right after the game. I pull some box scores up and write down the final, so sometimes it's a couple minutes after the game, but right after the game, pretty much right after the game. Michigan at Iowa right here, and you can join us. Same thing. You can call in on Twitter. You can leave your feedback, messages, and we talk about the game, and I go over it. I watch it. I take notes. That's what we do. So you're a basketball fan. No, you always have that available. And then if you don't want to get to it live, you also have it on the podcasts and YouTube and all of those places. Comment, subscribe. When you leave a thumbs up, I appreciate all of that. So hopefully we're here tomorrow and heck, even tonight. And I'm singing a different tune. You're singing a different tune, and things are back and harmonious with Michigan. You're a Michigan fan, it's like sitting in the big house and you're sitting down and you got somebody like kind of shoving you, or they got bad breath, or what else could be? It's just being obnoxious, and you look down and they're wearing a green and white shirt. You're like, of course, you're a Spartan fan. Predictable. But if you look down there and they're wearing a Michigan shirt and they're doing all that, you're like, come on, man, this is a Michigan fan. You want to like them. You want to get along. You don't want to be. You don't want to be. You don't want to be in a situation where it's maize on blue crime. And that's what's happening right now. Michigan fans against each other. The blame game with the coach and the athletic director. Any school in the country in college sports, in football and basketball especially, you need the president, the athletic director, the governing body, and the head coaches all to be in tune. These guys got to get along. And if it's from Ward from a couple of years ago, who gave Harbaugh half of his salary, and Harbaugh is holding a grudge, I don't know what's going on here with that. Some of the other stuff, like I'm making my best guess. But you don't want Jaydn Davis out there talking to Coach Dennis from the Buckeyes. You don't want that. There's a good deal to be had here. Let's make it. Let's lock these guys up in a room. Let's order some pizza and let's hammer out a deal. What's wrong with that? Can we get that done? If they do not get the deal done by Friday at midnight, if I'm Santa, I'm saying these guys have been naughty. And I am locking them in a room together over the weekend. And I'll come see them on Monday. If they get it done before that, they can go home. I've always been fascinated over the years with the papacy, how they go about electing a new pope. And I know we currently have a pope, and one of them passed away, which is a little bit weird. But when you have a pope, and there's just one, and he passes away, they all go, into the Vatican there, and they stay there, and they lock the doors, and they pray, and they do a lot of other things. But everybody that sits outside the Vatican, they all just look up at the chimney, and they wait for the smoke. And when they see the smoke, there is a celebration, because the people know that they have a new pope. I am close enough to Ann Arbor that outside the studio that I can see the chimneys of the university. And we all sit and we all wait for the maize and blue smoke, indicating that we have a football coach, that we have a contract. And so we'll sit around and we will wait. It is a helpless feeling. I'm sure the folks in Italy, as they sit out and pray and they just wait and they look skyward, what are they doing? I mean, they're hoping they get some new recruits. They're hoping for a pope. Michigan fans are hoping for a coach. Let's see if they're going to be able to get it or not. Okay, Michigan plays basketball tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll see you then after the game. If not, back here 1 o'clock tomorrow on the Maize and Blue Review. If you can't get enough of Michigan talk, analysis, and breaking news, on the bottom, subscribing to the Maize and Blue Review all day, all night, that's what the discussion is. A lot of just what we're doing here. I check in. A lot of people, very smart people on there, but I give my opinions. And sometimes people are like, I don't know if they like my opinion. Sometimes they like it. A lot of times I think they look at it and say, okay, I'm giving my opinion. That's what it's all about, though. Opinions. and fun, and Michigan fans getting along. Not about being at each other's throats, especially when you have all this positive momentum after doing what they've done the last 2 years. Thanks, man. Stevenson. You guys always had a lot of. I want to thank you. You guys always had a lot of. Let's face it. John indicating that he went to Livonia Stevenson. I don't know how it is back in the day, John, but the Franklin area, we were the more. I think you had to be more gritty, closer to Joy Road. We were like middle class. And to be honest, Livonia Stevenson, it was upper class. But I always found that I liked the upper class girls when I was in high school a little bit more. Come to find out, they seem to like me too. So I always enjoyed those the young ladies from Livonia Stevenson. So is it the Spartans? I was going to say go Spartans, but how about let's just say go Stevenson. Everybody have a great day. I'll say it again. And a good night. We'll see you after the basketball game. Bye.